Good evening. Okay, here now, students, I hope that this lecture comes through clearly for you. We will be going through the plot line of Othello and also doing critical appreciation of the text. Othello, as you know, is one of the tragedies written by Shakespeare. Shakespeare's plays can be broadly divided into the comedies, tragedies, history plays, and the last plays. The tragedies being Hamlet, Othello, Romeo and Juliet, King Lear. And we know that Shakespeare drew on Greek tragedy as his source for creating his own brand of tragedy. But it definitely differs from Greek tragedy in that Shakespeare has uh, experimented with the original form of Greek tragedy. He's exercised more liberty with the form. Because as you know, uh, for the Greek tragedy, the limitations are unity of time, place, and action. So only what happens within a span of 3 hours can be shown on stage. Any incident that is doesn't fit into that time frame is reported through a chorus, and the with uh, with Shakespeare, however, these restrictions are not there. Nevertheless, Shakespeare drew on the idea of the tragic hero from Greek tragedy. The tragic hero of Greek tragedy has a tragic flaw, which is also known as hamartia, Hamartia. And this tragic flaw is what leads to his downfall. Secondly, this tragic hero is a person drawn from high society, like Oedipus. All right, Oedipus was a royal personage, and uh, here you have a King Lear, a royal personage. You have Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, and Othello was an army general. A.C. Bradley, a very well-known uh, critic of Shakespeare's plays, in fact, one of the earliest, uh, and reliable and more authentic source of insights into Shakespearean tragedy, says that broadly there are three parts of his play: the exposition, then the the beginning, growth, and how the conflict evolves, which he calls a second part: the beginning, the growth, and the vicissitudes of the conflict. And the final section, which is the catastrophe, the tragedy, the climax, the very tragic portion, tragic end, right? What is the exposition? The exposition sets the tone. We get the vital information about uh, the context of the play, which part of the world it is located in, uh, what could be the problem, okay? The What could be the interest that moves the plot, and what could be the main conflict or the main storyline is indicated in the exposition. Because every story has to have some complexity for it to have that, uh, for it to have continuity from beginning, middle, end, right? Because there has to be a rising action and a falling action. There has a complex situation has to develop, and that complex situation has to reach its peak, and it has to uh, have a falling action or a denouement, and there should be a conclusion to that story. In a comedy, that conclusion will be a happy conclusion. Uh, in a tragedy, it is a sad conclusion. So, for instance, in As You Like It, it's a comedy. And there's so much complexity. There is sadness. There's a different crisis over there. There's a duke who's banished. His daughter is banished, and they go into the forest of Arden. And then the happy conclusion is that in the midst of all these ups and downs, everyone comes together, and there's reconciliation, happiness, celebration. But not so in a tragedy. You have the tragic conclusion. All the events line up to create that final catastrophe. So that is why the second part uh, is the growth and the vicissitudes. Vicissitudes means um, the vicissitudes would be the fallout, or and generally it vicissitudes indicates something negative, unhappy, the sad result. That's what we mean by vicissitudes. As I told you, Shakespearean tragedy draws on the principles of Greek tragedy. The tragic hero here is Othello, and he occupies a high position. Um, and he has a tragic flaw. Here, Othello's tragic flaw is that he succumbs to the spirit, to the instigation by Iago. We cannot say that his tragic flaw is jealousy. By nature, he is not a jealous person. He is very sure of himself. He's a well-honed personality. But Iago's evil, and Iago's predisposition to evil. Predisposition means he is naturally inclined to evil, is so overpowering that even a person like Othello falls a victim to the schemes of Iago. Hamlet, on the other hand, has a tragic flaw, which is in his nature, his indecision. King Lear's is his affection for his daughter. Um, for in the case of Othello, it's a coming together of his fate, his bad luck, and the scheming of Iago. It's not so much that jealousy is his natural flaw. So this, what we call the exposition, the opening scene, is set in a street in Venice. And we can gauge from this that Roderigo, all right, is a rich man, and he is interested in the hand of Desdemona. So now the main thing in this plot is the interest of people being interested in Desdemona. Desdemona is a beautiful lady who every rich person would be interested in marrying, or she is a much sought after person because of her beauty And because of her upbringing, she's the daughter of a nobleman named Brabantio. Um, and we know that Desdemona is married to Othello. So, this marriage to Othello is an unlikely um, pairing, okay, because he's a Moor, he's an African, she's an Italian, and every European man would assume that he is a better match for Desdemona than Othello. And we also know that we also come to understand from this exposition that Iago has a grievance. Iago has been overlooked by the General Othello for the position of lieutenant, and that position has been given to Michael Cassio. So Iago's arch rival is Michael Cassio. He is burning with hatred against Michael Cassio. Uh, and we also learn that Iago is getting money from Rodrigo. So Iago's hands are not clean. He accepts bribes to carry out um, the uh, the demands, the asks of people. So in this exposition, in this scene, we see that Iago is not a man of integrity. He is not an honest man. He is also a jealous man. Uh, so the all the components of the plot are sampled for us in the exposition. There's how is it sampled? A beautiful lady named Desdemona, who is sought after by young men in marriage. She belongs to a good family and she is beautiful. There is a general named Othello, who is a very powerful person, a successful person. And this Othello is hated by Rodrigo because it clashes with his interest in Desdemona. He's hated by Iago because Iago has been sidelined and the position has been given to Michael Cassio by Othello. So we are now conversant with, we are um, introduced to the conflict in the play. And Iago, in an aside, he conveys his bottled up emotions and he says that outwardly he appears to follow Othello and be a loyal subject. Okay. Uh, but he has an end in view. He doesn't do what he does for love and duty. And he has a grievance. He says, later on, I will wear my heart upon my sleeve for daws, for crows to peck at. I am not what I am. So when a person says, I am not what I am, he means I'm a very disturbed person. I'm very upset. And usually in critical parlance, that is in all this critical theory and critical appreciation and discussion of Iago, this term which Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the Romantic poet, has coined about Iago, motiveless malignancy. So it is like a paradox. How can malignancy, how can evil, how can hatred be motiveless without any motive? So this is a term which suggests there is more to Iago's malignancy than a motive. He has a motive, yes. He feels he's been overlooked by Othello for a promotion. He has a grievance, but it is also his nature. He is a type of person who will always be restless, who will always find something to be sore about. And he's basically a cantankerous person, basically a person without integrity. Integrity means honesty. A person who is disgruntled. Disgruntled means he has some grievance. A person who is unhappy. So you find these kind of people like Iago in every system. You find them in the workplace, you find them in the neighborhood, you find them in the family. Uh, their cause for malignancy is not uh, as not justified at all. The extent to which they plot and scheme and plan evil and hate somebody is probably not warranted. So they have within their own natures this rot within them that always makes them seek some uh, some grievance, some unhappiness on which they may dwell, on which their minds may dwell, and keep driving them towards a more and more poisonous, lethal means poisonous, lethal courses of action. So I hope you understood that there is malignancy in um, Iago's nature. Even in the most pleasant and even in the most positive environment, he will find something to be sore about and he will wreak havoc. He will create trouble. Because revenge, jealousy is too deeply rooted in him. And there is also a suggestion, not, I won't say suggestion, there is also this resonance that the character of Iago has with Satan. Satan, Paradise Lost. Now, Satan, Paradise Lost was written after much after Shakespeare's plays, but nevertheless, Satan is a figure who is there in the biblical story of Adam and Eve recorded in Genesis, and it's about the fall of man. And we know that Satan beguiled Eve. He tempted her, he deceived her, he lied to her, and the whole sole object of Satan's action was revenge against God. All right, because he was thrown down from heaven into hell, and he wanted to get back at God who had cast him down to hell. Now we find that uh, here he mentions over here, if you see in this slide, Iago's grievance. Grievance is that Michael Cassio has got the promotion. A.C. Bradley says, it is true that once embarked on his course, Iago could not turn back even if this passion did abate. And it is true that he is compelled by his success in convincing Othello to advance to conclusions of which at the outset he did not dream. Thus, he is caught in his own web and could not liberate himself if he would. This is something about tragedy, Shakespearean tragedy. Uh, to make the whole story dramatic, um, the tragic hero must fall from a great height and evil must run its full course. So, this is a certain philosophy about the nature of evil that we find in tragedy. If you see the tragedy of Dr. Faustus by Marlowe, if you look at the story of Macbeth, the person who commits evil, who gets involved in evil, as did Dr. Faustus, he um, experimented with black magic, and he was a necromancer. That means he was into black magic, and he signed a pact with the devil. And after halfway through his career in the path of evil, even when he felt like turning back, he could not turn back. Even Macbeth, in Shakespeare's character Macbeth, the tragic hero, he says that he's gone far too deep. So it is like he has crossed a river and gone halfway through the river, and he thinks that there's no point of coming back. He has to cross over to the other side. This is what they call the point of no return. So there is in this character seeks to who chooses evil, there is a point of no return. And this is a very moral perspective that people who are deep into evil cannot be redeemed. They are beyond redemption. They cannot be saved. They cannot turn from their evil ways because they have gone too deep into it. So in this early part of the play, we find that Iago and Rodrigo, they hide and they call out to Brabantio and tell him that his daughter has eloped. She's not in his house. So um, you can just see that they are mischief makers. So there is something um, unhappy, unpleasant that has taken place in Brabantio's house. It is terrible news to him that his daughter has run away. He's not aware of it, and you have uh, two informants, Rodrigo and Iago, who are not informing as well wishers, but rather they are instigating. They uh, want to uh, create a conflict. They want to um, provoke. They want to provoke Brabantio and watch his reaction. And because each has their own interest in the matter. Rodrigo, because he wants to break the union between Othello and Desdemona for his interest. Iago wants to trouble Othello because Othello has slighted him. Othello has not given him the position that he did. So here there is a motive. The motive in telling Brabantio is to uh, achieve, to address their own uh, grievances or their own interests. And simultaneously, uh, Othello is sent for by the Duke of Venice because the Venice has control over Cyprus, and the Turks have invaded Cyprus. So to reclaim Cyprus for Venice, Othello has been sent on a military assignment. And Brabantio, being a respectable member of Venetian society, a noble, brings before the Duke his grievance about Othello taking away his daughter. But uh, given the importance of Othello, Brabantio doesn't receive a sympathetic hearing uh, because Othello is seen not as uh, an undeserving man, but rather as a respectable general. And uh, the Othello also explains how he was a friend of Brabantio, and he did share with Brabantio about his travels and listening to all the brave deeds of Othello. Desdemona was drawn to him. She was hidden in the chambers of the house, but overhearing the conversation between her father and Othello, she was wonderstruck at this his military prowess, his um, versatile experience, his travels in different places, and she was absolutely charmed by his knowledge. Um, so, this is what drew Desdemona to Othello. So, Brabantio doesn't get the justice that he wants from the Duke, and the Duke uh, commissions Othello to go to Cyprus and defend Venice against the Turks. Now, Brabantio, a wounded father, mm, is deeply hurt, and he tells Othello that Desdemona, the girl who has deceived her father, may deceive her husband. And this is what we can call prefiguring. It's almost like foretelling. And since this is meant to be a tragedy, uh, these words of the father have to come true in the with the course of events that unfold. Uh, every aggrieved father who has to part with his daughter in because she has made a choice in marrying a man who against his will would say the words that Brabantio has said. But once the relationship between husband and wife sours, the man recalls what the father said about his daughter many, many years ago, and he regrets that he married this woman. So you can see that even though Othello might have brushed off the words of the father, it might have occupied some corner of his mind, his psyche. And this is the skill of the dramatist, he where the seed of tragedy, the seed of mistrust, suspicion, jealousy is sown at the outset itself. Desdemona demonstrates all through that she's a loyal, faithful wife who adores her husband. So she declares that she will not remain within the comfort of her home in Venice, but she would rather travel with her husband to the war front, that is to Cyprus. And here we see that in this passage, we see Iago is a man who is fond of money, right? Go make money is this phrase is reiterated in this part of the scene, and it is an aside. So he pours out his feelings, and he says that his hatred is sorry, he's speaking to Rodrigo, and he tells Rodrigo why he hates Othello. So both and in this passage he says that both of them have reason to hate Othello. Rodrigo's reason to hate Othello is because he has taken away the girl he likes, Desdemona, and Iago's reason is hatred, revenge. He's encouraging Rodrigo to cuckold Othello. Cuckold is to deceive the husband by having an affair, deceive a man by having an affair with his wife, so make a fool of the man, even right under his nose. Um, and here it's very interesting. You see why Iago is credited with being a person with motiveless malignancy, because he says that revenge for him is a sport. He enjoys, all right. Um, how do we understand this? People have their predispositions, their predilections, their inclinations, what they tend to do, whether they have a tendency to be positive or negative, whether they tend to be constructive or destructive. There are some people who will um gossip or carry tales when there's no need for these things. So these people have a predilection for evil, right? They enjoy it, right? So in the same way, Iago has a predilection for uh, churning up hatred, for being divisive, for driving a wedge between people, for sowing the seeds of hatred, of conflict. And he enjoys watching the outcome, the result of the seeds he has sown. Othello, on the other hand, is a very self-possessed man, because he's a person who has conquered so many parts of the world. He is a person who is very confident of himself. And if you, on the other hand, Iago probably suffers from some kind of complex. He feels he's been overlooked for promotion. He's not content within under his own skin. He's not happy with himself. Uh, Othello is a happy man. Othello by nature is not a jealous person. He's free and of an open nature, and that actually proves to be the thing that trips him up and makes him fall. His openness uh, makes him gullible. He is a guileless person. He trusts people, and Iago makes the best use of his free and open nature. Here, when they land in Cyprus, Cassio, who has an uh, affection for Desdemona within the limits of admiration and respect. And it is not a romantic interest. It is not something that is tinged with lust. He receives Desdemona with affection and holds her hand. But to the corrupt mind of Iago, and through to the and it is um it it is an opportunity for him to project this affection as being something out of place, something that is uh, beyond the pale of, beyond the frame of uh, clean, pure affection. And he says that he will, in an aside, he tells the audience that he will use this, he will use as a little, use as little a web as this hand holding to ensnare Cassio. So the evil intent of Iago is there. He is looking for every opportunity to create misunderstanding, to misrepresent, and to bring about the downfall of someone whom he does not like. And this is something that happens in the world. In the world where there is competition and rivalry, people who are out to wreak havoc and take revenge are only looking for an opportunity where they can bring about the downfall of the person they do not like. So, just an innocent holding of hands between Desdemona and Cassio is something that Iago makes makes note of for his own purposes. Then Iago, he instigates. So these are two important words, instigating and insinuating. What do we mean by instigate? Instigate uh, is like initiates. He starts, but starting not with a good intention, but with an evil intention. That is what instigating is. Instigating conflict, instigating one person against another person. And he also insinuates. Now, very clever, crafty people, they do not directly state something, but they insinuate, they suggest, and they sow a thought in the mind of a person so that that person will dwell on that and arrive at the conclusion that they want them to arrive at. So this is the kind of insinuating is a way of manipulating people by uh, influencing their thought processes. So he insinuates about Cassio. Rodrigo, because of his love interest, he, uh, on the advice of Iago, starts a fight with Cassio. And when Cassio is drawn into a fight, that is um, occasion for him to fall in the eyes of Othello and society, that little group of people who are there in Cyprus. Um, and the governor tries to pin down Cassio in this fight, and Cassio stabs him. So now um, Rodrigo is sent by Iago to raise an alarm to say that there has been a fight in the town and to it's like calling the police, all right, when there is some kind of scuffle or outbreak of violence. Um, Iago is reducing a respectable army officer, Cassio, to uh, a street fighter. Okay, and by um, and he instigates Rodrigo to draw Cassio into a fight. And the whole objective is to ruin Othello, to ruin Cassio. How much of Rodrigo's interest Othello has at heart, sorry, Iago has at heart, is a big question. Moreover, uh, fueling the fire and kindling, encouraging the love interest of Rodrigo is not an honorable thing to do, because Desdemona is already married to Othello. So as I said earlier, he insinuates. So when Othello comes, asks what the fight was all about, Iago he pretends as if he's reluctant to say anything about Cassio, his dear friend. So this is only feigning. This is it's acting, pretending, and then he tells, with as if he's very hesitant. He pretends, and he finally tells the story to Othello. So this kind of uh, crafty way of insinuating um, proves to be successful, and Othello strips Cassio of his rank. He he loses his position. So when a man loses his rank in the army, it is not just merely a loss of a job, but it is a downfall. It is very disgraceful. And Cassio is so desperate that he wants to be restored to his position. So the plot is moving very much in the direction that Iago has uh, planned. Okay. And Iago wants to see Cassio imploring Desdemona, and so that he can break the marriage between Othello and Desdemona. He can sow seeds of jealousy in Othello's mind, and he can also take his revenge on Cassio. So A.C. Bradley says the conflict remains in a state of incubation. You know, the egg, the if before the chick comes out of the egg is incubated by the mother hen. So it is kept warm, and that whole issue is kept alive. So that's what he's trying to say. The conflict remains in a state of incubation. It appears to be dormant, but under this shell there is the life of the chick, isn't it? It's growing, it's burgeoning. In the same way, the conflict remains in a state of incubation in the first part of the tragedy. From the moment when Iago begins to poison Othello's mind, we hold our breath. So from a state of incubation, and it bursts into uh, open confrontation between Othello and Desdemona. Finally, Othello confronts Desdemona. This state of incubation is there from the beginning. It is dormant. All the feelings of anger, jealousy are hidden within him, and then it finally erupts. The innocent people in this drama are Cassio, Othello, and whatever actions they um, their actions and reactions are done innocently. Even Brabantio was innocent. Innocently, he came to the Duke and he put forth his complaint. But Brabantio was brought into this, was alerted to the news of his daughter running away by the scheming Iago. The same Iago, he got Rodrigo and Cassio into a clash, resulting in Cassio losing his position. Innocent Cassio now sends musicians to Othello. So he wants to appease Othello's wrath, but then he doesn't succeed. Othello drives away the musicians. And seeing uh, Cassio so desperate, Iago suggests that he should speak to Desdemona. So here we see that Iago is mischievous. Desdemona listens sympathetically to Cassio and assures him that she will speak to her husband. Um, and you see the play of fate. Just as Cassio is leaving, Othello enters. And because Cassio is so grieved, he doesn't greet Othello or take cognizance of his presence. So it appears as if he's slinking away after uh, having a private moment with Desdemona, or it suggests that um, he is having some clandestine means a secret relationship with Desdemona. However, that is not the case. And the way he leaves with a heavy heart, and he's hanging his head in sorrow. At this time, we find that um, Iago takes full advantage of this situation, and he suggests that he appears to be guilty. He would steal away so guilty, like seeing your coming. Just a moment. Sorry, let's continue. So, fate plays a part. The timing when Cassio is leaving, Othello comes. Cassio leaves with a downcast face, sad, anxious, and he doesn't have the presence of mind to greet Othello. That is noted by Iago. Iago takes that opportunity to put the word a word in Othello's mind. Which word is that? Guilty like. Okay, he suggests that he's leaving in a as a guilty person. And there's a handkerchief that is plays a very important role in this play. The handkerchief is the first gift that Othello gave Desdemona. Now, this handkerchief Desdemona gives to Othello when this what is happening, what is being loaded into Othello's mind is disturbing him very much, and he has a splitting headache. When Desdemona gives him the hanky, he says that it's too small to wrap around his head, and the handkerchief falls. The handkerchief falling is um, once again bad luck, the play of fate. Uh, if you have read Tess of the D'Urbervilles, you will find that Tess is not a virgin when she marries Angel Clare, and she wants to let him know about what happened in her life, and she writes a letter the day before the wedding. She slips the letter under the door of his room, but the letter goes under the carpet, and she uh, assumes that he has read the letter and he's aware of everything and has still accepted her. Um, but when she alludes to what happened in her life and how she lost her virginity, uh, it is Angel Clare is taken by surprise. So you see that here this is um, what you say, a pessimistic view of life, where the storyteller, the dramatist, or the novelist strings together incidents where fate works and destiny work against the individual. So it's a very morbid view of life. It's a pessimistic view of life. So this handkerchief falls to the ground. Emilia picks up the handkerchief, and there is one person who is scheming, that is Iago, looking for evidence. And Iago has asked Emilia for Desdemona's handkerchief. Emilia innocently gives the handkerchief to uh, Iago. Iago plants this handkerchief in Cassio's room as hoping that this will serve as evidence that Desdemona has visited um, his room, Cassio's room. So Iago gets the bait that he wants. You know what a bait is? You bait, you catch fish, you put a bait, and then the fish gets caught in the net because of the bait you had. Fish gets caught in the hook because of the bait, the food that was kept there as a bait. So Iago gets his bait, and he's ecstatic when Emilia gives him the handkerchief. So this, he says, uh, because Othello is a reasonable man, and Othello has, in spite of all the insinuation that and um, instigation that Iago has been doing, Othello says that he will not take any decision without proof. The handkerchief being in the possession of Cassio becomes proof. So, as you can see in this slide, Othello asks Desdemona for the handkerchief. She says she can't find it, but it has been stolen, right? It has been stolen by Iago, and later on, Cassio uh, comes on stage and he is wondering about the handkerchief he found in his chamber. Bianca, he's been to a prostitute named Bianca. Now, Othello, what he has done is that he has asked, um, Iago has asked Othello to go into hiding, and when uh, and Iago uh, strikes up a conversation with Cassio, alluding to the time that he has spent with Bianca. But this uh, cutting out the actual context and misrepresenting it to Othello as intimacy between Cassio and Desdemona. So it is like listening to the narrative about another person, about A, and assuming that it is a narrative about B. So it is about the intimacy between Bianca and Cassio, but it gets the coloring, it gets a different coloring because Iago has framed it that way. So Iago is very clever at framing, and uh, Othello misconstrues that it is Desdemona that Cassio has been talking about, whereas it is actually he's been talking about Bianca. Okay. So now that he has got ocular proof, that is visible proof, he has the handkerchief is in the possession of Cassio. He has heard Cassio speak, and he has, of course, this is misinformation, not right information, but uh, it has been framed in such a way that Othello is made to believe. And finally, Othello accuses Desdemona of being a whore, and that night, he kills Desdemona. Again, Iago uh, creates a conflict between Rodrigo and Cassio. Instead of killing Cassio, he only wounds him. Iago wounds Cassio and runs away. And then when Othello hears Cassio's cry, he assumes that Iago has killed Cassio. So Othello smothers Desdemona and she pleads with him. And she, even in her moment of death, she wants to protect her husband's reputation. She doesn't want her husband to be known as a murderer. So she states that she committed suicide. Othello relates to Emilia that he has killed Desdemona because of her infidelity. Infidelity means unfaithfulness. She's not true to him as a wife. And then this is where the unraveling takes place. So, see, the plot is like something that is being woven. So, it's woven and made very complex, like the knitting that you do. So after it being knit together and a pattern is created, now the falling action, the unraveling. So it's like you can visualize it as knitting that people do, and then they remove the knit, whatever they have knitted, and the threads are laid bare. So unraveling takes place when Emilia tells him what she knows and this whole how she is the one who had possession of the handkerchief, and she did it on the instruction of Iago, and Iago's villainy comes to the fore, and this is the falling action. And so, one of the sentences, one of the lines that is remembered in this play is that by Othello, who says that he is one who loved not wisely, but too well. And these are some of the questions that you can look at. Definitely, Othello as a Shakespearean tragedy, Iago and his malignancy, motiveless malignancy, the character of Iago, the role played by the handkerchief in the play, the character of Emilia and Desdemona. So the major characters in this play are Othello, Desdemona, Iago, Emilia, Cassio. If you can work on character sketches and also the idea of Shakespearean tragedy with reference to Othello, you should be well prepared for the exams. Thank you.